Song structures are like the blueprints for your music. They are the outline that helps you get a better idea for where your song is headed, and it can help take the listener on a satisfying musical journey. To better understand the idea of why song structures are so important in the music that we make, we're going to talk about this guy named Gustav Freytag. See, there's this thing called Freytag's pyramid that's used in almost every story that you ever hear about in movies, TV shows, things like that. So we have the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. Each of these different points corresponding to the different sections that you're going to use in your song. So let's start first with the exposition, or our verse / maybe an intro. This is where you'll want to establish the main themes of your song both sonically and ideologically. So what is your song going to be about, and how can you communicate this through your music? Obviously, one of the first things that you're going to think about is the lyrics to your song. This is where you'll set the stage for your story. So the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, how, all that stuff. Whether your song is going to be about going to the club and dancing the night away, or it's something about a terrible heartbreak that's happened, your lyrics help you convey that introduction. But of course, it's important to know that that's not the only thing that contributes, because our song is made up of more than just lyrical content. The music can and should also be used to introduce the feel of your song. To give you an example, I have a song called 360, where basically the song starts off with this atmospheric muted synth that plays. It's a thought-provoking chord progression that causes the listener to think, okay, this is going to be a more serious song, a more serious tone. Very ethereal, very atmospheric. And minimal production here because we're just trying to set the stage for our music. Now, this is not always going to be the case, but typically this is where you have less instrumentation going on in the song so that you can have something to build on later. Some tips that you can take on this would be to keep it simple and write a really compelling verse that's going to engage the listener and make them want to hear more. You push the story forward by building that anticipation in your verse, and use emphasis only when necessary. You can do this by adding some harmonies here and there, some vocal dubs, some stacked vocals, and other background instruments if you see fit. Pretty simple enough. But next we have our pre-chorus, what I also like to call the lean in the song. This is where we have the rising action that's happening in our song, and here is where we connect the verse and the chorus, sort of like a mini bridge. Now, not every song has to have a pre-chorus or a lean. Sometimes you can go straight from the verse into your chorus with some sort of transitional vocal in between the two or instrumentation between the two. A lean could be beneficial by incorporating some sort of new chord progression or adding instrumentation or drum programming that briefly takes the listener out of the formality of the verse that they've been hearing thus far. And this is a way to further build anticipation for what's coming next, which is going to be, of course, our chorus. In 360, you can hear this change in my vocals.
I took the next train out to London.
This is our verse right here.
The moment you murdered my heart. 3 years now I'm walking the streets of Poland. I'm going right back to the start.
So you see, it's a very simple progression.
Maybe I'm feeling brave.
This is the pre-chorus.
What am I gonna find here? Maybe the heart I gave, I'll never lose my love, it's still here, but...
So you noticed how my vocal changed here, the arrangement. The music stayed the same, but the vocal melody that I was doing, that I was singing, took a bit of a turn. It wasn't anything super complex. There were no harmonies here. This is all one vocal. You can add harmonies if you want to, but it's important to change some aspect of your song in the pre-chorus so that you get that differentiation from the verse and the chorus. You want to bridge the two. So it's a very subtle change, but one that is apparent enough to keep the listener guessing, and the way that it ends is a perfect transition into the chorus. So as you've probably guessed by now, the chorus is going to be the main theme of your song that you're bashing over the head of your listener. It's usually the most memorable part of your song, something that's repeatable by the people who are listening, and it's where you're going to convey the central message of the song that wasn't previously mentioned in the verse. Now, in a lot of cases, this is going to be considered the climax of your song, even though it happens multiple times throughout the song, because this is where all your instrumentation is starting to come in. If you have a song that's building in that direction, you could have a chorus that's more simplified, where your verse was, the more complex part of the song, and then your chorus becomes something that's more stripped down, and vice versa. But the importance is to basically have a dramatic shift from your verse. More harmonies, more parts, a more grand feeling. Even the way that you process and mix your vocals can have an effect on the grand feel that your chorus has. Adding things like reverbs, for example, can really drive home this sonic feeling. Now, contrary to what I say a lot of times, because I love my harmonies, I love my stacks, a lot of memorable chorus melodies are done in unison or without harmonies. Whether they're octave stacks where you're singing the same melody in two different registers, so something that's more in the soprano range or alto range, and something that's more in a tenor or bass range. And when you listen to my song 360, it sounds grand, it sounds bigger, but it's not because we're adding harmonies. It's just because we have multiple vocals singing this one part.
I'll never lose my love, it's still here, but we don't even have to become friends. I held you near, but nothing lasts forever. Now I know we have
So the lower one.
da 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 da.
Higher one.
Ba 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 ba.
Same note, different register.
Everything moves in cycles. 360. Yes, everything moves in circles.
Harmonies.
You know that it comes back around. Everything moves in
So here I did the unison approach, but then there are certain parts where I'm emphasizing certain lines, and that's where I'm introducing my harmonies. So you can have your harmonies applied to the entire chorus if you want to, if your song calls for that and if it sounds good to you. But in a lot of cases, people simplify the chorus by doing those unison recordings. And if they want to add harmonies, they only sprinkle it in when it's necessary to do so. Something that accents the rest of the chorus.
300, 300, 300, 300, 6, oh. 300, 300, 300, 300, 6, oh. You know that it comes back around.
And back down.
Have you noticed how
So we go back down to the verse, and then we repeat that action because we're going to have another verse, another pre-chorus, and another chorus. Now in this case, after we have our second verse and our second chorus, we're going to move on to something called the bridge. And this is where it can get a bit tricky, because to me, a bridge can represent two different parts of the song. So it could be the climax, but it can also be considered the falling action. In this case, for this song, the way that it's written and recorded, it really is the actual climax of the song, because it's even bigger than what the chorus was. Because this is where you have your key changes, your chord changes in the music. It's got the grandest harmonies. Every song does not need a bridge. And I would say that most songs nowadays don't even have one, which is to me pretty unfortunate. This is a section of the song where your music should change dramatically, especially if your verse and chorus remained relatively the same. I know we changed a few things here and there. We might have added some harmonies, some stacks, but the chord progressions might have been the same, or maybe even some of the vocals that you recorded sound similar. So here are some tips you can use to write a really great bridge. First, you want to make sure that you tie this bridge with the verse and the chorus together thematically. You can create a unifying message that will eventually lead back into the chorus, because oftentimes that's what happens after a bridge. We go back into the chorus. Secondly, try to come up with a new set of chord progressions, new melodies, new harmonies, something that was not previously heard in the song. So a complete departure from those different melodies and harmonies that you've had in your verse and your chorus. Introduce something new to your listener, something that doesn't just add to your song, but it takes that dramatic turn, whether it's something more chilled out and relaxed or something more grand and complex. In 360, you can hear how I really drove home the theme while emphasizing a lot of harmonies near the end of the bridge so that we can transition back into the chorus.
you know that it comes back around.
Same progression, now change.
Oh, I don't blame you for needing someone closer.
Totally different melody here.
I just came back for a means to an end.
Chord progression still changes.
So that maybe one day I could find another.
And our
Never live this story again.
big harmonies. So that part right there, never live this story again. I feel like that is the climax of this particular song. Even though our chorus is really driving home that theme and it's something that repeats throughout, the bridge here is what emphasizes the whole idea that we're not going to be friends. We're breaking up. It was fun while it lasted, but everything moves in circles, aka life goes on, and we always come back around. Now, like I mentioned before, after your bridge, you can go one of two ways. You can go back to the chorus and have your song in that way, or you can write something that is called a vamp. A vamp is a section of your song where basically something is repeating over and over again. That could be lyrically, that could be vocally, that could be with your music and how it's kind of like a sonic mantra. Like, that's the way that I like to refer to it. The idea here is to enforce the important final message of the song, or to extend the vibe of something that's happening. So if this is like a more upbeat song, this is where something would be playing that's really going to get the listener dancing and kind of in that zone and not want to escape what they're currently listening to. It makes them feel like it lasts for a longer period of time. It gives people a chance to really soak in that feeling. Now you can write something totally new here, or you can use elements from your verse or your chorus if you want to hear, maybe a different variation of it, but something that is repetitious. 360 does not have a vamp, but I do have a song called Amna, which I think has one of my most favorite vamps that I've written. In this vamp, I'm just repeating the phrase, just bring it on, with lots of layered and staggered vocals that repeat along with the music.
A salute to life, homie. 21 guns, bring it on.
If you want to have another example, there's a song that I made called Stay. Maybe you've heard that one before as well. That has a vamp at the end of this song also.
Tell me, baby, does he treat you right? Is he taking care of you from day to night? I don't know if he can, but I can be there.
And it just repeats. That's the set. Setting the stage.
Is he taking care of you from day to night? I don't know if he can.
Bringing more vocals in as the vamp progresses. Stay being about, you know, not wanting a girl that you're into to leave you. You want her to stick around, to stay with you. This vamp here, does he treat you right? Is he taking care of you from day to night? I don't know if he can, but I can be that man. Repeat it over again, because that is what I'm trying to communicate to the girl that's listening to this song. Now, some tips you can use to help write a vamp for your song if you want to, is to make sure that the music that's being looped is not something that's annoying to listen to. And the same goes for your vocals, because if it is being looped and it's something that's being said over and over or being played over and over, you don't want your listener to have any ear fatigue where they're listening to this thing that's repeating and it's an annoying section or part or arrangement that causes them to turn the song off, you know? And make sure that the lyrics that you're repeating is something that you want your listener to remember because it's being repeated. Another cool thing that you can do if you don't have a bridge to your song, you can use your vamp as a bridge as well, because this is something that is totally different from the rest of the song. Like, yeah, it might feature elements of your verse and your chorus, but it's still something that should have some sort of musical difference. Finally, we have the resolution. And just like the intro of the song, at least for me, this can be either the really hardest part of writing a song or the really easiest part of writing a song. I find that it's really difficult to start and end your song. That's the toughest parts for me. The in-between is okay, but it can be difficult trying to figure out how you should, you know, bring this story to an end. There are many ways to end a song. A lot of times in music now, we have songs that just go back to the chorus, it repeats twice, and then you fade out or you end the song that way. You can also do like how I did, where you end your song on a vamp. Because it's being repeated, it's something that you can also fade out or something that you can end abruptly. Either way, you want this to have a satisfying conclusion, something that's going to cause the listener to want to hear more of, or something that makes them feel like they really got something from what they listened to. Because at the end of the day, people are taking their time to invest into listening to your music if you're sharing it with other people. So you want to respect that time by making sure that you're giving your listener everything that you feel they should have that's going to be entertaining to listen to, or that draws up some sort of emotion. So like in my song Stay, this doesn't have a fade out, although I could have done it because there is a vamp that's playing, but I chose to end it pretty abruptly.
You know I'll be fucking with you and everything that you do.
And that's it. In the case of 360, this is a song that ends by going straight back to how the song started. So you can end your song the same way that you started it. In this case, we're going straight back to those muted synths, that atmospheric feel. The same exact progression that we had in the intro is happening at the end, and that's the end of the song.
You know that it comes back around.
Chill. after everybody has this breath of fresh air from the bridge, the chorus that we just had, we're dumbing everything back down, getting it all simplified, and returning to the first works in a sense. No matter what tools you use and what sections you decide to include in your music, as long as you have some sort of unique structure to your song that people listening will be able to remember, you'll be making great music in no time. So use these tips, come back to this video if you need something that, kind of gives you some inspiration in helping you writing your next song, and let me know in the comments below if this was helpful to you at all. So drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and just like a good resolution to a great song, this video is over. Stay legendary.